Come on the big one. So hello and welcome to another video. God, am I excited. I feel like a kid at Christmas at the moment. I've always wanted to fish this water, and this water is none other than Holme Fen Fishery, and we're on meadows where the big boys are. I am so itching to get going. I'm off to an absolute flyer. For anybody that doesn't know, it's a bit like turning up to a French venue, this place. As in, you know, you book it as a party or a group of people, they all turn up together anyway. And you do a draw for the swims, so it is a little bit like French fishing, and not only that, the fish as well, that makes it a bit like French fishing. There's some absolutely hippopotamuses out there. I mean, oh my god, I mean, the guy that was in the swim before me, he only had 2 fish for the week that was here. He had a 27, but then the other fish was a 61 pounder. Oh my god, a 61 pounder. You just can't believe it. It is the place of dreams, this place. If you get a bite, you're certainly going to be quivering. My knees are knocking and I've not even got a rod out yet. But, you know, it's not easy fishing, and out behind me here, there's a lot of dot islands and things like that. I mean, we'll talk a bit more about in detail why I chose this swim. It wasn't for what people had caught or anything like that. We had a good walk round before, and I've seen fish in the area. And not only that, there's an out of bounds section that, well, I say out of bounds, there's a peg that's not fished anymore, and I've seen quite a few fish over there. I can't get to that water because it's too long. It'd be ridiculous if I put a rod out there. I could boat a rod out there, but it would be ridiculous. You're just asking for trouble. I don't want to lose any of the bites that I get, so I need to be a little bit sensible in what I'm doing. But it is dot islands all around me. It's going to be warm as well for the next few days, so them fish have got to stay in this area, and I am expecting something. You know, I'm not expecting it to be prolific at all. You know, I'd be quite happy if I only had a couple of bites, but fingers crossed for one of them big uns. I've got my heart set on a 50 pounder. That's all I've come for, that's all I want. So yes, I could do literally everything in this swim just from looking at it. I've not plumbed it or sent the deeper out or anything yet. I've literally just unloaded the car, but from what you can see and what I already know from picking up bits and pieces of information, there's a lot of features out there. There's a lot of gravel bars between the dot islands out there behind me. There's gravel bars that cross over each other as well, which creates gullies between the islands. So there's a lot of features. The fish that I have seen are a bit long, to be honest. I don't think I can get at them fish, but I'll have a look, I'll have a plumb about, see where the channels go to, see if I can position a rod that intercepts them fish in and out of where I'm seeing them. But, you know, I really don't know at the moment, so there's no point me going on about it. But I'm so excited. You can probably tell this is one trip I have really looked forward to, and you know, it come about really through a friend. I didn't inquire to book or anything like that. A good friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want people to send him messages saying can you get me on and things like that, but he knows who he is and I've got him to thank for this. So double thumbs up on that, and I really do appreciate it. So yes, without further ado, let's get going and let's see what we can find out there, and fingers crossed for one of them big uns. So that is it then, the rods are out there on the dance floor and I've taken my time to get things sorted out. Now originally what I wanted to do first of all is to see whether or not I could cover where I seen them fish showing. And luckily for me, there's a bar out in front of me and I can walk right out onto that bar, so I've got no worry of the fish kiting and going round that island there. There is still a possibility it could go between one of the islands, but I think that's a risk worth taking, you know. Get the bite, get on the rod, get out across that bar, you know, and I'm parallel to the fish then, bring it back towards me, and you know, and then once it's in the safe zone I can come back. That's the plan of action on that one, so I'm really pleased I could cover that area. The other two rods, they're fishing out in gullies. To my right hand rod, there's 3 dot islands, and between the islands there's like a little gully and it comes down into 10-11 foot in that area. It's shallow all around it, 3 foot as it goes up towards the islands. So I've got one placed in that gully at 10 foot. And then straight out in front of me, it's literally straight out in the main bowl, so to speak of. I've gone out across over a bar between the islands. Again, it's 3 foot as it goes over the bar, and then down into the back of it, I've got 7 foot there, and that's where I've positioned the rod. So I've got all bases covered really. I've got a 10 foot, a 7 foot, and where I've seen them fish showing, it's 5 foot. Now, my right hand and my middle rod, I'm really happy with them spots. Good drop. There's a hell of a lot of weed out there, a lot of Canadian weed. But my left hand rod, you know, I couldn't find a clear drop out there. But I didn't want to, you know, pull it to a froth or anything like that. What I actually did with that rod is I just drove the bait boat out there with the leading rod in it. And when I got to where I seen the fish show, I just basically looked for a spot, and I just looked for the clearest area on the echo, and then dropped the lead, clipped it up, had a pull through, and it's just like scattered weed, but it is solid all round there, and I'm not going to get a drop out there. I could spend ages looking for a spot out there, because on the echo it is just up and down, up and down, up and down. So with that in mind, I mean, it's like that across all the bars, you know, as it comes off the shallow into the deep, and there's just scattered Canadian everywhere, and there's a bit of silkweed as well. So with that in mind, I've gone in on hinge stiff rigs on all of them, fishing pop-ups. I've got, it's a relatively short hinge really. The longest hinge is on the left hand rod, that's about a 2-inch stiff section on there, and then on the other two it's about 1 inch. So I've got all bases covered. Now on here there is a few rules which you have to take note of, one of them being a leader ban. And you can't fish naked neither. You are allowed to use leaders, but it's manufactured leaders only. So that means like your Corda Safe Zone leaders or your Nash diffusion leaders. Other than that, you have to use tubing. I've gone for tubing because I can use the tungsten tubing. It's good stuff that, and it you know, it pins down. It's heavy, and I prefer that to the diffusion leaders or the safe zone leaders, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a fan of using tubing or any type of leader. If I can, I'd rather fish naked. That sounds a bit wrong, but you know what I mean. So yes, that's my plan of attack. Now baiting wise, I've got both the premium baits with me from Shimano. I've got the LM94 and the RM20 red nut. I'm starting off with the LM94, that's what I've gone out there with. I've got the 10mm and 15mm. I've had them glugging for a good few days before turning up, and I've got plenty more in the car as well, and I will glug them up as we go along. As I need them, I'll just keep glugging them up, keeps them nice and soft, not only that, you know, preserves them as well. And then particle wise, I've actually brought with me a lot of pigeon conditioner. I spent a good few days this week at home getting everything sorted. I've brought about 20 kilos of pigeon conditioner with me. I say 20 kilos, it's not actually 20 kilos of just conditioner. I've got about 8 kilos of corn in there. I bought 8 bags of corn, 900 gram bags of frozen corn. That went in there, and then I just filled the rest of the bucket up. I can get 20 kgs in that bucket. I've measured it before, and I just kept going until the bucket was full. A bit of a lengthy process really, because I haven't really got my Burko packed up, so I had to do it on the pans in the kitchen, which the missus wasn't too happy about. And yeah, I soak mine for 2 days before I boil them. I soak them for 2 days, and then I like to give them a good 2 days afterwards, you know, so it absorbs all that water into it. And the way I start it off is I treat it like rice. Anybody who's into the cooking, you know, me being a qualified chef, you know, I've got a bit of, I know what I'm doing, let's put it that way. So yeah, I put double the amount of water into pigeon conditioner. And that's how I start. And what I usually do is soak it in the pans that I'm gonna boil it in. So I'll put my conditioner in, double the amount of water, leave it stand for 2 days, and then I'll just put that pan straight onto the hob. Yeah, and I cook it on a high heat to begin with until it comes up to the boil, and then I turn it down and let it simmer for a good 30-40 minutes. You have got to keep stirring it though to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then once it's cooked, I empty all the contents into the bucket, all the water that's in there, everything, all the contents into the bucket. And I find by doing it that way, you have just the right amount of water. You leave that stand for a couple of days, and all that water absorbs in, and it's a real thick, sticky munger. And to be honest, the longer you leave it, the better. I mean, I like to leave it for a good 5-6 days before I freeze it. I don't like freezing it freshly boiled, so to speak of. I think it's at its best, you know, 4 or 5 days old. And then once you've got to that stage, then you can start adding your liquids and your spices or your salts, whatever you want to add in there. I always go in with whatever food syrup to match my boilies or the boilie dip. I'm not a big fan of putting salt in at this time of year. I think, you know, in the springtime, you know, it's a big edge, the salt. But this time of year I don't bother with the salt. I have been known to put a bit of chilli in, but I haven't on this mix. It's just the LM94 food syrup that's gone in there as well, so it, you know, it complements what I'm putting out there. Now I think it's worth mentioning as well, the spots that I'm obviously fishing with, the amount of Canadian weed about, and that I've actually come up on the lead size. I've gone up to a 5-ounce lead, and that is just to make sure that that lead does eject on the take. I do not want, you know, that lead not coming off and we're getting stuck in the weed. I want that lead off straight away, and I want them fish up on the surface. And because I'm going out over bars and things like that, I mean, ideally I'd want my rods up in the air, you know, a bit like the Europeans have them, but I can't do that because the bird life in here is horrendous. There's absolutely thousands of geese, too many to count, let's put it that way. And then you've got swans as well, and then you've got tuft ears, coots. There is a lot of bird life on here. And then not only that, you've got big rafts of Canadian weed that keep floating about. Yeah, I mean, I say big rafts, it's not like the big rafts, but it builds up on the line. And what I've actually done is I've put the rod tips under the water, so, you know, I'm going to get that bite, lead comes off, pick into it and hold that rod up high, get out onto the bar if I need to, and that's how I'm tackling it. And fingers crossed, you know, all the thinking behind my madness is going to do us a bite or two. I mean, you know, it's not prolific, not by any standards. The group last week had 10 or 12 fish from what I can gather from what Martin was telling me. So, you know, the fish have been pretty spread. I think I've already mentioned this. And it's been doing the odd bite to the odd person. I think the person who had the most fish last week had 3 fish. There was 2 people that had 3 fish last week from what I was told, and then the guy in here had 2 fish. So, you know, it is slim pickings. It's not going to be prolific. You know, I'd be happy for a bite or 2, and I'd be happy for one of them big uns, obviously. Hook baits, I've actually gone out on standout hook baits because of the water clarity. I mean, if anything, it's a bit more coloured than usual from what I'm being told. Usually this place is like tap water, it's gin clear, which is part of the reason why the Canadian's so prolific, especially in the shallower areas. But I've gone out on a standout hook bait in past experiences and other places I've fished with clear water. White's always been a good colour for me, so I've gone out on the tiger nut, which is a white pop-up, the TX1 tiger nut. I've got 2 out on that at the moment, and you can't ignore a yellow. A yellow always does well for me, especially a banana and pineapple. So I've got 1 out on a banana and pineapple and 2 out on the tiger nut. And that's my starting approach, and you know, hopefully we see something, we can tweak it. I've not gone too mad on the bait. On the 2 gully spots, I'm spomming on them and I'm casting. Really, I'm doing that just to save the batteries on the boat. I've only got 2 sets of batteries with me for this session, and it is quite a distance out to that left hand rod. So ideally I only want to be using that at minimal, so it's good that out there in casting range and spotting range. So I've started off with about 12 large spoms on them. They're not filled right to the top, I will mention, they're only half filled. And then obviously in the hopper I've just got around about 1.5 kilos to 2 kilos in the hopper that's gone out over the left hand rod. I will replace that rod a bit later on, just so I can have a good fit, you know, see how the lead comes back on the retrieve when I whip it off of that spot. I do want to see, you know, that what I'm actually thinking in my head relates back to what comes back on the rig. But I really didn't want to make any disturbance while the fish was there, so that's the reason why I did that. So that is it then. I am waffling on now. It's all to play for. The rods are out there. I will touch on things in a lot more detail as we progress through the session. I'll show you the rigs, how I've constructed them, what materials I've used, things like that. I know not everybody likes that kind of thing, but I always seem to get the comments asking and the messages, why don't I, and that. So I am going to start doing that a bit more regular, unless, you know, I'm using the same one over and over again. But for this session, I've not used hinge stiff rigs for quite a while, to be honest. And I've got huge faith in them. I did that, the time that I did on Eric's Willows was all on hinge stiff rigs, so you know, it is a favoured rig of mine. It's just not something that I get to use very often. So yes, wish me luck. would you look at this glorious sunshine. And it's been quite a delayed morning really. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning and you couldn't see a thing out there. It was like pea soup, so you wouldn't think it was going to turn out like this. We're just gone 10:30 now and I've not got a lot to report on really. Last night it was obvious that them fish moved out of the bay last night, 100% obvious. And there has been a couple of fish out as well, and the couple of fish that have been out in the open water. There's been 3 fish out so far, 2 last night and 1 this morning, 2 30s and a 20. So you know, that's pretty promising. At least there's a couple of bites. But I think this area that I'm in, I think it's dominated by the sun, I really do. Because as we speak at the moment, I've just started to see a couple of fish drifting. And I tell you something, they know where they're safe. To the right of me here, this island, basically as it comes across the corner of the island, it comes up to a gravel bar. It's not too bad, that one. You've got like 3 foot on the top of that gravel bar there, and then it dips into a gully, which is about 8 to 10 foot, that gully, from the places where I've crossed it anyway. But then the bar on the other side of that is only about a foot deep, and that's hugging the island to the left. That's hugging that line, and where I've boated across, I'm sort of just missing that gravel bar, so my line's not going over that foot gravel bar. That's the last thing I wanted. And the fish are actually showing right to the left of it, just behind that shallow gravel bar. It's like they know it's safe there. There's no chance I can put a rod there. I can't have that line going over that gravel bar. It'd be just too risky. I mean, where I have put it, it's the sort of the safest place I can position it, which, you know, so my line's not going over that gravel bar, and I've just got to keep my fingers crossed that they move in. But the tufties have been giving me a bit of chew over there, because I've only got about 4 or 5 foot of water in that area, and the tufties have picked me up a couple of times. But luckily for me, you know, with them hinge stiff rigs, they do reset themselves, so I'm not too concerned. I did get a right screamer this morning though at 6 o'clock. A swan had just gone straight through my line. How it picked it up I don't know, because I've got my rod tips dipped. Yeah, so I come running out thinking, oh, I'd been sat out here all morning as well, you know, waiting for the mist to clear, and then I give up about, I don't know, about 5:30ish. Got into the bivvy, laid down there, just starting to doze off again, and then the rod went into meltdown. I thought I was in, to be honest, until I seen the swan bloody kiting up the lake. But you know, well, all we can do is keep plugging away. I do definitely think I stand a better chance while this sun's out. At least anything, I'm feeling a lot more confident. I'm just about to start soaking some 18mm RN20. Get them ready. I'm thinking I'm going to stick some out with a throwing stick later on when the gulls can't pester me. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to prep them up now, get some of the RN20 food syrup in there. I tell you what, it smells gorgeous, this stuff. Oh, honestly, it just smells like you want to eat it. It really does. It's beautiful. About 3 kilos in this bag. I'm going to put half the bottle in. I normally do 6 kilos per 1 bottle. I'm just going to do it straight into the bag. Keep shaking the bag throughout the day so they all get a nice coating. And they'll be good to go. So yes, that is the state of play at the moment, and as always I'll keep you on the update and we'll have a bit of a catch up shortly. Well, good afternoon, and we're just coming up to tea time now. Still not a lot to report on, I'm afraid. I just feel like the fish are not in front of me at the moment. And the guys that are in this bay as well, none of them has had a fish on this side of the lake, which kind of indicates, they're not here. But every now and then they do still get down, right down past that island. If I just zoom in a little bit, you see here, where that tree is, well, further round to the left, that's where the odd fish, I keep seeing the odd fish showing that area over there. But the trouble is there's a gravel bar that comes across here, and it's only about a foot on top of that gravel bar. And then before that there's a gully that runs round, and it comes all the way around, and it runs around the swim that way round. And I have changed things slightly. My right hand rod, that was fishing in the gully to the other side of them mushroom islands, I'll just swing it round a bit, just here. My right hand rod was in between there. There's a little gully there, but what this gully comes through here, comes round the back of that island, and then comes round, and then eventually it comes round, and it actually goes between that island there. There's an island behind the back of that one as well. And it comes between them two islands. I've had a good look round today with a bait boat, so I've sort of got a better understanding of the topography of the lake. And to be honest, that most of it's all 3 foot apart from that gully. And that gully, where I've got what's now my right hand rod, it was my middle rod, that's in 7 foot of water, and then as it comes further around it gets deeper and deeper. And my middle rod now is actually, it's in line with the opening of them two islands there. It's actually fishing in 11 foot of water, that rod. But them two islands there as well, again, over the back of there, I run the boat between it just to see what the depth was, and we got 2 foot between them islands, and then between them two islands there it's only a foot. So I think when the fish are coming in, I think they're actually coming in front of the beaches. The beaches is that swim right over there. You can just make it out where that swan is. I think the fish are coming in round that bend because it's a deeper channel in that area, and they're coming round the back of the islands, and I think they're going right round the back into that bay there. So fingers crossed that some fish start using this channel. Because I can't go over that bar. It's too shallow, and I can't go over that bar there because it's just going to cause me problems. Originally, when I first got into the swim, that tree there on that island, just in front of that is where I was seeing the fish. Now, if I boat out parallel to where my finger is now to that island, it misses the bar. That bar only comes out to about in line with that tree. So I have been fishing it at 28 wraps in line with there. But I'm yet to pick anything up on that. And the trouble is you get a lot of problem with bird life because it's only shallow over there. I managed to find 5 foot, but it's mostly 3 foot all around in that area over there. And my other 2 rods, that channel, basically it's aiming at this middle tree here. That's at 18.5 wraps to hit the channel from here. And then as it comes round, I've got one here, and it's actually 19.25 wraps to hit the channel from here. So, I've got all bases covered. I just think I need a few fish to turn up. They're definitely not here, and the fish that have been out so far have been out from the open water spots. I think the dugout, the reeds and Party Point. So, it don't really tally up with what Martin told me, the owner. The fish have moved out into open water at the moment. That's how it's looking anyway. I'm not seeing any indication of fish coming across. And when they're coming here, they've got to use that channel, otherwise you'd be seeing them. I've just seen a fish bosh out to the right of me in the shallow water. It's not my water, that, neither. But the guy who's fishing in the dugout is fishing towards that area, and he had a fish this morning. And I've just seen a fish show there again. That's encouraging. That's the first fish I've seen for a while. I'm definitely not going to put any more bait in that channel. I mean, the rod that I've just replaced at 19 wraps, 19 and a quarter wraps, I've just used the bait boat with that, and I've gone quite moderate in the hopper. I've probably put about 1 kilo of bait in that instead of filling it in. I just don't feel like there's enough fish out there for me to start piling the bait in. And like I say, I put 12 big spawns over that 18.5 wrap spot, and I'm not going to put any more spawns out there. You know, there's no indication that the spots have been fed on. I've seen no bubblers, I've seen no fish cruising past that area, and I've had no liners neither. Every now and then I've had the odd tweak from the tufties diving on me. They have picked me up a couple of times, so they will have had some of the bait, but there's still going to be a lot of bait out there. I put 12 large spawns. There wasn't full spawns, it was probably about half filled. But that's still a good 2 kilos of bait. But what I am going to do, to try and keep it more stealthy than anything, I mean, that's why I redone that rod with a boat, replace that with a boat. My right hand rod, I still need to replace that. I'm going to replace that rod, and then I'm going to stick some boilies out, but I'm going to wait until a bit later on to do that, because as soon as you start throwing anything in, the gulls just annihilate you. And that's the plan of attack. Don't do any more spamming just yet, because I still feel like there's a good bit of bait out there. But I'm going to spread some boilies out in that gully. I'm not going to do it tight. I'm going to purposely spread them all out in that gully between both of them 2 rods. You know, see if I can get them picking baits up as they come through. That's if they do come through, that is. But it's a good area of the lake, this, and I'm told it's a very, very good swim. It's been consistent since it opened this year, this swim has. So I think it's just a matter of time. I've just got to persevere with it. The other thing that I have changed is I did have 2 white pop-ups out there and 1 yellow, and I've changed that. I've got a pink out and 2 yellow now. But the yellow, it's still the banana and pineapple, but it's it's glugged in pineapple power smoke, I think it's called, that goo, the Corda goo, pineapple power smoke. So it's made the baits a lot duller in colour, and not only that, you know, it makes them stand out a bit more. It's good stuff, that Corda goo. And then the pink one that I've put out, that's a washed out pink, and that's the squid and octopus. Just trying something different. I've not got anything to go on, really. I don't know anybody else that's fished here. I've not spoken to anybody before I come and fished here neither. The only thing I had to go on, really, was a couple of YouTube videos that I watched before arriving. And really, they wasn't very good. They wasn't very informational. Didn't really tell you anything about what they was doing or out like that. It was a more look at the fish, what I've caught sort of thing. So, you know, I couldn't really take much from it, but what I did take from watching them was the fact that it was very weedy and there was gravel bars and things like that, so I did come prepared with that in mind. I mean, I'd not long re-spooled my reels anyway, my spare set of spools ready for my new syndicate this year. And I've actually re-spooled them with £20 mono. Now it's quite an under the radar line that I've used on that. It's from Catran. And going back to when I was last in France, when I was at Ictus, that lake over there was absolutely savage. And my mate Dave was using this Catran line, and I was using £20 fluorocarbon, and we was fishing the same area of the lake, the same gravel bars and that. And I got cut off 8 times on that trip, on them gravel bars, and Dave was using the £15 version of this Catran mono that I've put on, and he didn't experience any cut-offs at all. It's very, very good. It's very abrasion resistant, and not only that, you know, it doesn't coil up after you've caught a fish as well, which is one thing I absolutely hate. There's quite a few lines that I've tried in the past, and a lot of the brand names as well that I haven't been impressed with. So needless to say, when I got back from that trip, that £20 fluorocarbon went in the bin, I tell you, and I shan't be buying that again. But that's part of the reason why I re-spooled with this stuff. And I suppose it's worth mentioning as well, you know, you need something with a bit of backbone in here. If you hook them big fish in shallow water, you know, you need some strong tackle. The rods I've brought with me, I've got the TX4 Intensities, which are 3 3/4 pound test curve. And you know, couple that up with the £20 mono, I can still whack that out there a good 26, yeah, well, good 26 wraps if I want to, because there is, you know, I didn't know which swim I was going to pitch up in, so I come, you know, sort of prepared for everything, so I could still fish 100 yards comfortably, but not only that, I was still set ready for hit and hold fishing as well. And the reels that I'm using, it's the C14 pluses. You know, the slow oscillation on them, the line lay on them reels is absolutely phenomenal, which aid you with casting, so you know you can get out there with, you know, thicker lines on. It's 0.36, that line that I'm using, which really for a £20 line, it's not a bad diameter. Yeah, you definitely don't want to come here undergunned on the tackle side of things, because I think if you come with your casting and your £15 monos and that, I think you'd definitely have some trouble, especially fishing in these areas where there's that many gravel bars. I mean, you see me walk out on that gravel bar here. I mean, I can walk right out to this island over here. I can go right across and go right over to this island here, and it's only about 1 foot to 2 foot deep on top of there. But I'm quite pleased that's there, to be honest, because it's allowed me to put a rod down where, well, near where the fish have been showing. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have even bothered, I wouldn't have even attempted putting a rod down there. Because the last thing you want is to hook one and then it goes shooting through them islands over there. But at least I can get out and be parallel to the fish there, so I feel safe about that. That's why I won't go any further left. Not only the gravel bar, but not only that, if you hooked one there, it'd be straight through them islands. So yes, that is the state of play. I feel like I'm just waiting for the fish to turn up, but I'm still really positive. You know, I think I'm fishing well, and the fact that I've moved that rod from that gully, I mean, them islands there, they just, all the bird life in the lake just seems to gather up on them islands. And because I got picked up so many times on that rod, you know, I lost faith in that spot. I just can't see the carp, you know, visiting in that area as often. You just don't know. I mean, sometimes, you know, sometimes the carp and the bird life feed together and that. Sometimes they spook away from them. But if anything, it doesn't make me feel very confident, you know, knowing the amount of tufties and birds and that are around that area. I'd much rather fish an area where they're not, you know, not annihilating it as much. So yes, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to make the video too long because we've still got 7 nights ahead of us. I shall have a bit of a catch up when something happens. Well, it hasn't been too long since I spoke to you and the rod was away. I couldn't believe it. It was like I was just saying, I'm waiting for the fish to turn up, and then I seen the fish show on the island behind me, and then I watched one come round, and then the rod was away. I couldn't believe it. Not a big fish, but I'm happy to get off the mark, and he's just gone £27 4 ounce, and he's a lovely looking mirror. You've got to do all the shots in the water here because of the spawning situation. And there you go, look. Just check him out. Lovely jubbly. I am a happy boy now. The first one's always the hardest one. Let's see if we can work on it and get another one. It was a left-hand rod. Ooh, come on the big one. Well, good morning, and it's another scorching day today as well. I'm feeling a little bit down in the dumps this morning though. I mean, that fish yesterday afternoon really lifted my spirits, you know. I got the rods sorted back out, had some tea and went to bed basically with pretty high hopes. But again, I've awoke this morning. I've been up early, the mist was, you know, it was quite foggy out there this morning again, but it wasn't as bad as yesterday. And yeah, I was watching the lake, and again I've seen nothing in my water, and I've had no indications to say that they're here. It really is starting to become frustrating now. And not only that, there's been a few decent fish out this morning for the group. The guy in the dugout had a 42, and then the guy in the lookout, he's having a right morning, he is. He's had 2 fish this morning. One was 48 and the other I don't know because he's just landed it, so I'm not sure how big that is, but apparently it's something special, so I shall keep you on the update and let you know how big that one is. But for now, you know, I'm just sat praying and hoping that the fish turn up. That's all I can do at the moment. They're in to move on the cards to move on to the fish, but at the minute them fish are definitely localised. I mean, the dugout and the lookout, they sort of fish out into that same body of water, and it is open water fishing. In fact, if anything, it's not far away from the right hand island where I was seeing the fish yesterday. There was all on the back of that island, and then he had that 42 this morning where I was seeing the fish show. So they're not too far away, it's just that they're not in the bay. But it is what it is, and that's the type of fishing you've got here at this place. It can either make your dreams or break your dreams. And at the moment, I'm making no dreams at all. I am just sitting here with my fingers crossed. I've got to keep the faith. Hopefully we can make something happen. I mean, I did see the odd like cricket back common come jumping out the water down that left hand side again. But I haven't even seen a decent fish show down there this morning. I mean, both mornings I've been here, I've seen them right down in that corner, you know, but I haven't even seen them get down there today. And I guess if them fish don't turn up, then I've got the, you know, the thoughts of what to do for tonight. Do we put more bait in? Do we leave it? You know, I mean, I'm not going to put a lot in it, that's for sure. Not until I get some sort of indication or response, or see something in the area which warrants putting a bit of bait out there. But like I said, I didn't put any bait in last night. I only sticked a few boilies out there. So I definitely do need to put a little bit of fresh spod mix out there, but I'm not going to go in with much. Probably just 4 spons over each spot, because you don't want to overfeed it. You know, you can put it in but you can't take it out. And we've still got plenty of time ahead of us. Maybe I'm just, you know, sort of losing my mind because I've seen a couple of big fish come out and I'm not getting any of them. Oh dear. All I want is 150. That's what I really want from this trip. 150 pounder. That's me happy. If I caught one now, I wouldn't even care about the rest of the week. I really wouldn't. But at least we've caught something. You know, there's people that still haven't caught anything. Obviously, the main water swims, they've had a few fish now. I think him in the dugouts had 2 or 3. Him in the lookouts had 3 now. And Martin, he was in the reeds, but then he moved into the pump hole. I think he had 2 fish out the reeds and then 1 fish out the pump hole. They were all 20s. I mean, until this morning, there was all relatively small fish that had been out for this place. 20s and 2 30s. And like I say, this morning's changed everything. So I can't wait to see what this fish is, what he's had over there. He's happy as Larry. I could hear him cheering and yipping and everything over there, so I'm pleased for him, mega pleased for him. What a feeling that must be. It must be a big one. It's got to be a big one. So I'm going to carry on watching the water and formulate a plan for later. Hopefully we see something, you know, and it changes everything. The fingers crossed on that one. But I shall keep you posted and we'll have a catch up soon. Well, good evening, and as you can see behind me, it's looking rather moody. You could say it's the calm before the storm, because we're meant to get a really big thunderstorm tonight. So fingers crossed it brings the fish with it, because on the old fish front, still nothing to report for myself for today. And to be honest, I've not seen any activity out there. There really are not in this bay at the moment. The swims to be in at the moment are the dugout and the lookout. And that fish turned out to be a 56-pounder that he had this morning. What an absolute beast of a fish. Here's a picture of that now. What an absolute unit, and not a bad looking fish as well. Well, I know I keep saying it, but it really is a waiting game as far as I'm concerned. I'm really happy with the spots that I've got out there, you know, and I've got a good understanding of the topography of what's out there now. And I've got all the gravel bars sussed, and especially between the dot islands. I've got the depths between each dot islands and that. And I've sort of figured out which way they can come through. And to be honest, there's only a couple of entrances where the fish are going to come through into this bay. So as you can imagine, I've been sitting on my bucket most of the day watching them entrances, just looking for any kind of hope. I did see a couple of fish right down in that bay again, you know, but it's way past that gravel bar. There's no chance I can fish for them fish. But it's not a lot of fish. I've probably seen 3-4 fish down there, and one of them was a cricketback common. It come right out the water like a trout, so you know, I'm not too fussed about getting a bite from that anyway. But all I want is one big one, and we'll just have to keep the faith. That's all we can do. That, you know, it's the same situation for everybody. I mean, fair enough, it's like a session of a lifetime for some people on here. I mean, that 42 what the guy had this morning, that was an absolute beautiful fish, probably one of the best looking fish in here. And then, like I say, he's had 2 bites, a 48 and a 56. You know, that's just how much it can change in here. So we've just got to keep the faith, and I'll keep you updated. Stay positive, keep trying to make it happen, and I shall be speaking to you very soon.
I choose to think positively, no matter what's going on around me. I have a great life, and will continue to have a great life. Every breath that I inhale, I feel confident.
Well, good morning, and what a way to start the morning. I'd rather start every morning like this with a fish in the net. It's still not a biggie for this place, but he's just gone over the £30 mark, £32 10 ounce. And I am pleased as punched, I tell you, because I still don't feel like the fish are here. I've managed to nick one out that gully. I've been watching fish show on the other side of that island for quite some time now. So for one to sneak round and take my bait, that's a winner. Big body and little head, this one. And there we go, look, check him out in this morning sunshine. Yes, get in. Hopefully, fingers crossed, for one of them bigger ones. I shall just spin him round. Hinge stiff rig and pineapple and banana doing the business. That's what I had the last one on as well. I will show you the construction of that rig in more detail as we get further into the session. And there's the other side, look. He's a bonny fish, he is. And I am so happy. One last look before I put him back. There you go. What a beast. Well, as you can see, it is absolutely scorchio at the moment. I don't even know what temperature it is because I haven't even looked at the weather forecast. But yesterday, we'll start off from yesterday where I last updated you. The thunderstorm didn't really hit us at all. I could hear the thunder in the distance, and we did get a little bit of rain, and the wind picked up for about 20 minutes or so, but then that was it, you know. It was very short-lived, and yet I've seen up and down the country on Facebook that some people's had it really bad, but we didn't get it here. But me saying that now, there is an amber weather warning out for today for this area. Meant to get a really bad thunderstorm later today, and it's meant to be raining all night, so fingers crossed for that one. I quite like a good old thunderstorm. Nothing better to freshen things up, that's what I say. But back to the fishing. After I last spoke to you guys last night, you know, I kind of expected a couple of fish to come out, but nothing come out last night at all, and then nothing out through the night again. And then there was one other fish out this morning that come from the swim opposite me in the beaches. He had a lovely 44 pounder, really nice fish that was, and that was his first fish, so he was made up. So I was kind of sitting here a bit despondent really, still not seeing anything showing the zone. And that bite come out the blue, it took me by surprise, if I'm honest. So that was a real good surprise for me. And £32.10, they're getting bigger, you know, fingers crossed for a big one. That's all we can keep doing, we just keep plugging away. But the main thing is, you know, I'm staying positive and we've still got plenty of time left. I'm absolutely starving at the moment. I hadn't had any breakfast this morning. I've just been sat watching the water. I could not sleep last night. I could not sleep. I really thought something was going to happen. Not as in like for me catching, I don't mean that. I thought the fish was going to switch on and start to see a few fish show. So I was kind of waking up every hour, and then I sort of give up at 20 to 4 this morning, just got up and I just sat watching the water. It was a lovely morning again, you know, mist rolling off the lake this morning. But no, then the fish haven't really showed much this morning. The fish that I did see was all out in that main bowl of water again, that sort of looks, the lookout, the party point and the dugout all look out into that same body of water, and that's really the only zone where I've seen him. Oh, and the beaches as well, he commands a little bit of that water, and to be honest there was showing quite close to that island, but not a lot of fish, not like there was the other morning. So, you know, it's still all to play for, and I still don't think the fish are really switched on. I mean, since yesterday, I think there was 3 fish out yesterday, and there's been 2 out this morning, so it's pretty slow. But as far as I can gather, it's usually like that here. I've not got a lot to go on that side of things. I know it has done big hits in, like, I mean, the Party Point's quite famous for doing big hits in the autumn time and things like that. But in general, it's usually pretty hard going on here. So we're doing all right, you know. Fingers crossed, that's all I can keep saying. Anyway, I'll keep you posted when anything else happens. I'm going to get some dinner on now. And just kick back really, wait for this thunderstorm. If this thunderstorm turns up, we'll be in for some good footage later. So yes, speak to you soon. Well, it hasn't been too long since I last spoke to you, and as you can see behind me, it's already starting to change. I can hear some thunder in the distance, so it's definitely coming. Time to batten down them hatches, I reckon. I can't wait. I love a bit of thunder. It's what we need, freshen it up a bit. I've been sat here baking all morning. I cannot wait for this. Let's hope it does the fishing a bit of good. Fingers crossed. good evening, and before I do that old afternoon update, I thought we'd just have a quick run through the rig. Now, it needs no introduction whatsoever, this rig. It's proven itself, and it's proven to catch quite a lot of big fish over its time. And for myself as well, going back to the days when I did a bit of time on Eric's Willows, my first 40 pounder I caught on this very rig, and you know, it's been one of my favourites ever since. But you know, it has to warrant it has to warrant using this rig. I wouldn't be fishing this rig over a clear bottom or anything like that. Over the years I've come to realise, you know, it's all about making it less conspicuous as possible, or at least that's the way I think, and it served me well. But anyway, my rig on this session, you'll notice that it's not a stiff material. That there's a semi-stiff. It is coated, and it's actually the Christen, and it is the what's it called now, Mantis Gold, that is. So it's semi-stiff, so it can follow the contours, so you know, your lead drops in, and it's still got enough in it so it can reset itself. And notice I've got the blobs of putty, look. And then putties, if it curls up or whatever, then putties just help it, you know, lay flat. So that's the reason behind doing it that way. I mean, if I was using it over I don't know, a bit of lower line weed, you know, a bit of like silkweed where you know how deep it is, then I would shorten the boom. But generally when I use this, the boom section is always about 10 inch, and then the whole rig itself, once you've got your hinge on there as well, it's actually 12 inches long. So it's quite a long rig. It's a lot longer than what you'd usually use. Well, it is for me anyway. And anyway, as I was saying, I've got a tungsten anti-tangle sleeve there at that end, figure of 8 loop knot, coming down to a ring swivel here. And notice I've got a loop where the hinge is to create some movement there. It's all about movement, this rig. Obviously, you know, the Ronnie rig is a take from this rig, and that is very good because of the way it moves. But the one way you can improve this rig is by having that loop there. And I've got a crimp on the stiff material. That there's the 25 pound ESP stiff. I always prefer that material. I've been using that for a long time. You know, it's got good memory. You can tweak it to get the angle that you want. You want to always check this in the water before you get your pop-up on, and always check it. Make sure you get it balanced just right. Sometimes if you're using a smaller pop-up, you can get away without that blob of putty there. Sometimes it will sink just right under the weight of the swivel. But with the 15mm pop-ups that I've got on, you know, I need that little bit of weight there to get it dropped down. And I have mine curved, and as you can see there, I've got a bait screw on. It is the plastic bait screw. I don't like the metal bait screws because there isn't enough meat on the actual screw itself for me. And you notice on there, if it will zoom in, it's quite a big screw, and it's got some, you know, it can grab a bit of meat. And if you've got a nice hard pop-up, you drill it out nice, and you can get these plugs in really tight. And no, when the tufties are not going to pull that off. The only way them tufties are going to pull that off is if it's been sat there all night and you haven't had a bite. And hooks I prefer to use for my hinge rigs, or choddy fishing for that matter. It's the Corda Captives. These are a size 6. It's a size 6 roll on here. I have used them in the past in the size 4s, but I really do like the Captives. I might have mentioned this before, I am not into sharpening hooks at all whatsoever. I don't like how it corrodes the hooks. For me, I like a sharp hook out the packet. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, the new Corda ones that they sharpen up and that, the Kamakuras, they are deadly, deadly, deadly sharp. But I've put that, well, not me myself, but my mate uses them a lot, and he's put them out into said water and brought them in the morning, and the hook point has been totally corroded. So you know, that's just the way my thinking is. Drop your comments below, let me know what you think on that matter, because it is very mixed opinions on that, and I do like to hear other people's opinions, but that's just mine, and who am I to say any different? You know, if it works for you, carry on what you're doing. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. So yes, that's the rig. 12 inches, hinge stiff rig, supple boom, 2-inch boom section, Corda Captive, size 6, bait screw. Job's a good un. Well, good evening, and that is my view for this evening, albeit a total different atmosphere tonight. Although the storm was a bit of a letdown, it still was a storm, and we had a bit of rain and a bit of wind. We just didn't get much thunder, and it didn't last very long. If anything, it was only about an hour and a half or so. And it wasn't forecast like it was meant to. It was supposed to be an amber weather warning, meant to get rain all through the night, but it's not looking like it's going to start again, so it does look like it's passed. But anyway, it just screams big fish. I'd be very, very surprised if come 10 o'clock tomorrow morning there hasn't been a big fish out somewhere on the lake. I am predicting a big fish coming out tomorrow. Hopefully, it's me, but I'm not seeing the signs of the big uns getting in here. Like I say, when I do get the odd indication or clock the odd fish, they do generally seem to be the small fish. I'd love to see a lump show out here. But Giles has just been round. He's fishing the beaches over there. He had the 44 this morning, and he said last night he's seen quite a few decent fish showing out in that main body of water. I can't actually see past that island to the right of me, but yeah, he said there was some big fish out there. He said, but he hasn't seen anything since last night. There wasn't showing out there this morning, the big fish anyway. So he said that they could have moved off anywhere. And he's got a better understanding of this lake than I have. He's fished it quite a few times. So, it could be a total different ball game tomorrow. I mean, the lookout didn't do a bite this morning, and the dugout didn't do a bite this morning. So, them fish could have moved off, and it could be a different story come the morning. But then again, it could just be that they just didn't feed this morning. It wasn't ideal conditions, really. But tomorrow, it's going to be prime for it. And it's Big Fish Thursday tomorrow. And not only that, with Giles coming round as well, he's told me my boundaries as well. There's an area which I could have been fishing, which I haven't really put a rod because I thought it was pushing into his water. But he said, no, I'm completely fine, and he showed me the boundaries and that, so I have got an option to move a rod tomorrow. It's a bit too late to get to do that now, because I did think about it. I'm thinking, shall I? But no, I'm going to stick it out with the spots that I've got for tonight. I mean, I suppose the main thing that I've changed from my starting approach is I started off with a lot more bait, and now I'm fishing for a bite. It does seem like I'm just picking off the stragglers that come in here, and I think if I was to carry on, fishing them gullies and piling bait in, I really don't think I'd have had the option of catching anything, to be honest. So, I'm lucky to have nicked one from down that left-hand bay, and I'm lucky to have nicked one on that right-hand rod. That's how I feel at the moment. But, it could change at the flip of a hat. Them fish move around. It's a big chunk of water, this. And all you need is a few fish to move in. And there's nothing to say that they're not going to move in. I'm actually fairly surprised that nothing's been out this afternoon, because it looks good out there now. I mean, I know I'm not seeing the fish showing and that, but it's still prime conditions, low pressure. And it's warm. It's a low pressure and it's warm. That's what you want when at this time of year. I mean, if anything, if I was being picky, a nice bit of wind coming into this bay would be lovely. It always makes me feel a lot more confident with a nice warm wind blowing in on a low pressure. But, everything is crossed. I know I keep saying it, but it really is that type of water on here. At least we've had a couple of bites. It could have quite easily gone another way, and we can only build on it. And we are losing the light fast now, so I don't want to talk too long. I want to try and make the blog shorter rather than longer. I might even do it in 2 parts, it just depends on the amount of footage I've got at the end of it. But we'll see on that one. But for now, it's good night from me, and hopefully you'll be seeing me again in the morning, hopefully with a fish update. That'd be lovely. But we can live in hope. I'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning. I say morning, but it's not actually morning, it's just gone dinner time. The heavens really opened last night. It started around about 2 o'clock this morning. We got a bit of a light drizzle, and then come 3 o'clock it was absolutely torrential, and it's been raining heavily ever since. So I've been awake since 3:30 this morning watching the water, and I've not got a lot to report, I'm afraid. I've seen a couple of small fish jump out, one common and one mirror, but other than that they haven't really been putting a display on. I don't know what's been happening on the other side of the island though, that possibly could have been showing out there. But I really thought something special was going to come out this morning, and as of yet I don't think anything has happened. Well, I say I don't think anything has happened. It got up until about 10 o'clock and still nobody had had a bite, and then I hears a cheer in the background, so something's been out, but I don't know what. As far as I'm aware, the dugout and the party point both had a bite at the same time, but I'll have to keep you posted about that, because I've not really spoken to anybody to get the full information yet. So as it stands, we're struggling again. The fish haven't turned up in front of me. It's definitely looking like I'm going to go into the draw tomorrow for another swim. Because I just feel like I'm just sat waiting for the fish to turn up, and I don't like camping. You should know me by now. Camping's not my thing. We're here to catch some fish, and I want one of them big uns before I go home. But you know, I'm always positive and I'm always looking for that next opportunity. I have, as we speak, seen one fish show right down in that left hand bay again. So I've put one rod long. I've kept to the right of the where the island is, because where the bar comes across it's too shallow on the left. But it deepens off on the right, so I've hugged to the right. Even though it was showing to the left, there's still a possibility. You just never know why that rod's there. That's about the only thing that I've seen worth going for this morning, because them two that was jumping out in front of me, cricket bats, that's all I can say. But you never know, sometimes you see them little ones show and the big ones are behind them, but I'm yet to experience that, let's put it that way. But regardless of what's happening out there and what the fish are doing, we've still got one night left in this swim. That's definitely what's happening, and I'm still trying. I'm trying my best. I'm keeping my eyes peeled. I've been up every single morning between 3:30 and 4 o'clock watching the water, and to be honest, a lot of the time I'm not watching a lot, I tell you, but you just live in hope. You just live in hope. I shall keep you posted. Well, good evening once again, and I'm afraid it's not good news. Nothing to report at all today. The whole lake has fished very poor, especially with the weather front that we've had. I really expected something special to come out this morning. I know that one fish come out at 44, but I really thought one of them big uns was going to pay a visit to somebody today. But I guess that wasn't meant to be, and that is carp fishing for you. You cannot always predict what's going to happen, even when you think it's nailed on. Oh, a little twitch there. There's a few bits knocking about on that right hand side. That's the one that's fishing in that gully between the islands. It's the first bit of action I've had for a bit. All joking aside though, I haven't seen anything show today. It really has been a total different contrast. I've not long reset the rods. I've just replaced them with the bait boat, just wrapped them up and took them out to the spots that I've been fishing to. They're both actually fishing in the channel at the moment. I've not got a rod down that left hand side. I've only got 2 rods in at the moment. I was kind of hoping that something was going to show, and I was gonna, you know, just put a single out to it, because they're definitely not in here. They're really not. And because of that, I've not gone in heavy on the bait, you know. I've just kept fishing for a bite. Obviously, I started off when I first got here with them 12 spons, and that soon indicated, you know, that it was the wrong thing to do. So rather than just keep filling it in, all I did was just kept putting the rigs back out on the same spot. I sticked out a few boilies, not on the but on the third night. Yeah, I stuck out some boilies on the third night, and topped up with 4 spons. And since then, all I've been doing is just putting a little scoop of bait in the boat, and sending it out there, just so there is something, you know, fresh out there. But every now and then you still see the tufties diving on them spots, so it does indicate that the food's still down there, and it doesn't warrant, you know, filling it in. Although it is a good tactic on here, so I'm told, you know, just fill it in and sit and wait. But we are running out of time, and I think if I'd have done that to begin with, it'd have been a different story. I don't think I'd have had them 2 fish. I feel quite lucky to have caught them 2 fish, to be honest, because it really could have gone another way. I'm quite thankful for them 2 fish. I really am. There's still people that I haven't caught, and like you say, it's slim pickings. There's a couple of people that's had the odd fish, albeit decent fish. There's two guys that's had a fish apiece, both £44 each, so that's not bad, is it? I'd trade both of my fish for that one fish, but that's how it goes, and that's fishing. But unless something miraculous happens in the morning and a load of fish turn up, I'm going in the draw again for my last 3 nights. I definitely am. But, you know, it's a bit of a gamble doing that, because really there's only 2 swims that I really fancy, and them 2 swims both command that same bit of water. I mean, one of them is the beaches, which is opposite me. He's only had 1 fish over there, but he's had quite a few fish out there in front of him. Obviously I don't know how he's fishing, but, you know, I still think there's some fish to be had out there. And then obviously the other one is the dugout. I really fancy the dugout. I think the guy in there has had 3 fish, a 42 for definite, and it was a really nice looking fish, that. I mean, the lookout is a possibility, but he had them 2 fish, and he hasn't had anything since. That's not to say that he's not going to have anything, it's just, you know, it's a bit of a gamble, that swim, the way I look at it. But I reckon if I could get in the dugout or the beaches, I think we'll be nailed on for a bite at least. And not only that, I could put a little bit more bait out then and see if I can get something going, rather than sitting here fishing for a bite and hoping that the fish turn up. But anyway, that's the situation. I'm sorry there's not a lot to report, but, you know, I'm doing my best. And it's not just myself that's suffering today. It's the same all around the lake. These fish have got other ideas. So yes, I shall catch up with you in the morning. Hopefully it'll be with that big fat smile and a big fat carp, but, you know, I really don't think it's going to happen, if I'm honest. But hey ho, I shall be seeing you in the morning. Well, good morning, and a very quiet night again, and not a lot to report for this morning. However, I have got a confession to make. I slept in this morning. I didn't get up till 6 o'clock, so I missed that key window this morning. But, you know, I kind of got my mind set on moving swims, so I have already started to pack down. It's 8 o'clock now. And news around the lake is it's fishing slow again. There's been 1 stocky out, and 1 lost fish as well from the dugout. So as you can imagine, you know, the dugout seems to be doing regular bites every morning. I think he's had a bite every morning in that swim. So, you know, that is my pole position where I'd like to go. But the luck's in the draw. We'll have to just see. But if anything, I'm definitely aiming for one of them open water swims. They've definitely not got into these back bays. And like I say, the fish that I have seen really have been right down in that back left-hand bay, and you just can't get a line to them. No matter which swim you're in, you can't get a line to them down there. And the fish are not daft in here, you know, it's a pressured lake and it's low stock. I believe there's around about 200 fish, give or take, which for the size of the lake, it's not a lot of fish, so it's never going to be prolific unless they are all localised in one area and they're really on the munch. So all in all, the group has done really well. I think top rod goes to Martin Lowe. He's had 7 fish, albeit like 6 small fish. I think he's had 6 20s, but then last night I forgot to say, last night he had a 40 pounder. I think it was 41 pound in ounces, so that's made his trip. He got what he come for. Well buzzing for him. And you know, he's been moving about on this trip. He hasn't just stayed to one swim, he's been dotting about. I think he's fished 3 different swims, so you know, the effort, reward and all that lot, take my hat off to you, Martin. Well done, mate. But again, the rest of us, you know, we've just sort of sat out in our swims. If anything, I had to change my tactics because I come with quite a lot of bait and I thought it was going to be a bait and wait sort of thing, but as it turns out, that wasn't the case. I ended up just fishing for a bite in the end, and one of the bites come from 3 foot of water and then the other one come from the gully. But I really don't think I was getting the traffic. I started off more so on the left-hand side of the swim because obviously I'd seen them fish right down in that left-hand bay. But then towards the end of the session, I started creeping back round because it was obvious that the fish was showing out on the right-hand side of the islands, out in that main bowl. So, you know, I sort of crept round. I fished the channel on the right-hand rod. And that's what did me the second bite, and I've stuck it out on that rod, you know. If anything, I was more confident of a bite on that rod than the other 2 rods. But that's the way it is, that's fishing for you, and I don't think it's been bad. I'm kind of blessed that we've had 2 bites because it does see a lot of people off this place. At least 60% of people blank on here because it really is that type of water, or at least that's what I'm told anyway. Obviously I can only relay the information to you that I've got, and obviously I can tell you about my session as it happens and what my thoughts and opinions are. But it's a totally mega lake and I can't wait to get back in that draw. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the next swim. So a few hours have passed now and I'm in the swim. A bit of a palaver getting here because I got my car stuck and I had to get a few of the lads to help me get it out. But what I had to do was walk round, do the draw and then come back, and we all had to get my car out. I went a bit too far down the slope and I couldn't get traction on the front wheels. So that was a bit of a boo-boo. And then I went to the shop and on the way back it took me past a diversion, and the sat-nav could not divert me around it at all whatsoever, so I got a bit lost. So here we are, 3 hours later, I'm in the swim. The draw didn't go too bad, if I'm honest. I come 4th out the draw. There's 10 on this group and I come 4th. But, you know, my top 3 choices went on 1st, 2nd and 3rd. So I'm in the pump hole. And to be honest, I'm actually quite pleased I'm in here. Obviously I'd have preferred to have been over there in that open water, but last night Martin was in here last night and he had a 40 from here last night, and he had a little stocky as well, a double I think it was. So it's not a bad option. And before he left he did say to me, he says, Paul, it's a good swim this, and it's got a form for doing the odd big fish. So, you know, I'm pretty confident. And not only that, it's given me a tip off as well. There's a sunken tree in the corner over there. He says that's generally good, and he's took a few good fish off that in the past, and that, I think that's where he said he had the 40 from this time. So I need to investigate over there. I'm going to investigate the reed line behind me and that corner over there. That corner looks really good as well. So yes, a lot to do, all to play for. Double thumbs up, we'll get there in the end. Come on the big un. Oh, would you look at that? The rods are out there and we are all sorted. I feel really positive with the spots that I've got out there. It's a lot more clearer where I'm fishing. There's still an abundance of weed out there, don't get me wrong. You can see it all in the margins, and when you plumb it up in the middle, just from bringing the lead back you can feel it. But I'm fishing up on the shelf. The main bowl of this water, I've not plumbed it, but I already know it's 40 foot deep in this main body of water here, so it's a very, very deep bay. And I'm fishing out towards that corner over there. It's where that bank and that bank it comes in, so it kind of creates a V, and I'm just aiming at that V in that corner. It's quite deceiving that, because it doesn't look that far away, but it's actually 23.5 wraps to hit that spot, and it's a lovely clean area that you can tell it's fished a lot. And what I've done is I've gone round and I've just handballed some boilies in over the top of that, the LM94 in both 10mm and 15mm, and also a scattering of the 18mm RN20 as well. I've tweaked things as well on the rig front, but I'll talk about that in more detail tomorrow at some point. And then my other rod is straight out in front. You can see like these trees here, they overhang, and there's one there that overhangs, so it creates a gap in the middle there. It's come out of focus, let focus back in. So yes, it's created a little gap in the trees there, and I'm using that as my marker. The green tree that's between them, that's my marker. And I'm fishing on the shelving on that rod as well. It's quite a steep drop off there. If you're not clipping them reeds, it drops off into the abyss. It really does drop off really quickly. So I've got that clipped up. Yeah, that one is 16 3/4. And you've got to have the, stand in the same position, rod in exactly the same position when you hit the clip, and sort of feather it in just so your rig doesn't get stuck in the reeds. So I'm as tight up to that as I possibly can be. And that one, I've actually used the spom to put the bait in over there. It's quite deceiving when you walk round to actually distinguish where the gap actually is. So rather than risk baiting up in the wrong area, I use the spom on that rod. And then my other rod is fishing towards this sunken tree to the left hand side. You can't see it on the screen now, but here's a clip of that now. Again, that's fishing in shallow water. If anything, I really don't see them feeding out in that main bowl of water. I'd imagine this is a good winter swim, to be honest. I'd imagine it having good winter form with that depth of water. But I'm concentrating on all the bits of shallow water that I've found. I might mention as well, I've not plumbed it or anything like that. I've not got the deeper out, and I've not actually got a marker float out. I'm just going out there and I'm gauging it just by the drop on the lead. I'm sort of estimating the one against the reeds is about 6 foot, and I reckon it's about 3 to 4 foot in that corner over there. And then my left hand rod, it's actually fishing 8 wraps towards that tree. I've come well short of that because Martin mentioned to me that if you get too close to it, there's a cut off, there's something there that cuts you off. So I've dropped a rod length short of that at 8 wraps, and I've just gone round and I've done the same as the other rod. I've just a couple of handfuls of the LM94, both 10mm, 15mm, and a few RN20s over the top. I'm still using the stiff hinge rigs, but like I mentioned, I've tweaked them to suit what I'm fishing over. Because it's a lot clearer out there and it's not real thick weed, I've actually tweaked them, and I'll show you what I've done to combat that. But there is still some weed out there. It's not totally clean or anything like that, so it does still warrant using a hinge rig, in my opinion anyway. I might change things tomorrow, and I might interrogate things a little bit further tomorrow with the deeper. I just didn't want to do too much. I wanted to get everything sorted, so I've got this bite time window all boxed off with the rods in, no commotion. And from what I've been told as well, you know, I've kind of got a good understanding of where I need to be. He says aim for the corner, and then, you know, don't go too close to that sunken tree and that. So I have kind of been tipped off with the spots, if you know what I mean. I've just had to go out there and find them for myself. He's told me the area. So yes, everything is crossed and I'm feeling really hopeful. I'm yet to see any signs of fish, but believe me, if I do see anything, you'll be the first to know about it. Just one big one. I know I've said it before, but just one big one before we go home. That is all I want. I'd trade everything I've had so far, the 2 fish I've had so far, you know, just for one big one. Anyway, I need to get myself sorted now. I've given myself a headache today because I haven't drunk enough. So I've got a pounding headache at the moment, and I want to have some tea now before 8 o'clock. I want to be sat watching that water from 8 o'clock onwards. So I'm going to get some tea sorted, and then we'll have a bit of a catch up in a bit. Well, good morning, and we are approaching dinner time now, and I'm still yet to report anything. If anything, the lake is fishing very tricky today. There's only been 1 fish out for the whole group, and it was 22 pound. So the lake really isn't fishing great, or we're all doing something wrong, one of the two. But anyway, going back to my fishing, there wasn't any fish that got in here last night, not that I'm aware of anyway. I sat out patiently on this bucket watching the water, and I didn't see any signs of fish getting in here. And yet the previous night before, my friend Martin that was in here, you know, he's seen a couple of fish in here. So you do know when they're here. They do show themselves, so to speak of. So, you know, I'm just about to reel them rods in and go for a little mooch round. In particular, I want to go over to that corner over there. I'm going to take the deep around there with me, and just get a better understanding of how that corner drops off, and how deep it is on top. Because like I say, it was hard to feel the drop on that, but it does pull back nice and clean. So I just want to know how deep it is really, the further you go back into it, whether it's worth dropping a bit shorter rather than going right into it. That's one thing I want to have a look at. And then baiting wise, because I don't feel like anything's paid a visit, I'm just going to top up with a couple of handfuls of the 10mm and 15mm, and that is it. I'm not going to put anything else out there. Until something happens, you know, I don't see the need. I mean, you know, a few smaller fish or the coots or whatever might have picked a couple up, so it's always worth just putting in a couple more handfuls. But really, until I've had a bite, then I'm not going to bait up properly, let's put it that way. So yes, I'm going to crack on with that, and I'm going to leave the lines out for a few hours, and probably reset them about tea time, and then we shall have another catch up then. So as I mentioned, I tweaked the rigs a little bit to suit the ground that I was fishing over. There is still scattered weed over there. I mean, especially on the left-hand spot where that sunken tree is. The spot actually glows over there, but there is some like real low-lying weed across it. So it does still warrant a pop-up rig over there. However, I have changed things, and because I've gone to a double bait, I've got a 15mm LM94 pop-up on the bottom, and then I've got a 12mm pineapple and banana on top. So it's actually a double pop-up, so it's a snowman presentation popped up. And what I've actually done is I've shortened the hinge. That there's only an inch long. They're all an inch long on all the rigs now. And you'll notice the blobber putty, I did have it behind the swivel here, but I've actually put it on the stiff section here, and I've sort of wrapped it round that ring swivel there so it doesn't move. That's just so it sits up like that, and the swivel's not hovering around from the extra weight that's on there. You do have to check it, because with two pop-ups on it is quite a lot of extra weight, but you know, that's the presentation I've gone for. So far it hasn't worked, but I do think that's just because the fish are not out there in numbers. So yes, I'm just in the process of getting all the rigs sorted again, and then get everything wrapped up and get it back out there. So good evening. It's just gone 8 o'clock now, and this is prime time for this area. I put the rods out about 5 o'clock, and I tell you what, I am so glad that sun's dropped behind them clouds now, because it has been absolutely baking today. It's made me feel very lethargic, let's put it that way, and it was hard work getting the rods sorted earlier. But you know, I give myself a kick up the arse and got it done. Like I mentioned, just a handful of bait over each. I put 2 handfuls in the corner and a couple of handfuls in, where that tree line is. I didn't bother baiting the reed line, I just left that because I baited that with a spom yesterday, and I put a bit of conditioner and corn in that as well. I'm quite confident there'll still be some bait over there. So yes, as it stands, I have still seen nothing show out there. I mean, you can't quite make it out on the camera, but down the right hand reed line there is a nice trickle of wind blowing right into that corner, nice steady trickle, and we didn't have that yesterday evening. It was totally flat calm yesterday evening, so that's a positive thing, although there's nothing to indicate that they actually get on the wind here. You know, I've got to go by what I've seen myself, and bits of information that I've been told. But it is frustrating, you know, it's hard work when you're not seeing anything in front of you and you're pinned down to a swim. It's very, very frustrating. you spend a lot of time thinking and a lot of time willing something to happen. Yes, it's not for the faint-hearted, a place like this, I will say that. But the thing that keeps you going is them big uns. So many big fish in here. So many big fish. And you just, you know, it keeps me going. Just the thought of that rod ripping off and it could be a big un. I mean, you spend a lot of the time of the day, you know, willing the rods to go off and not much happening and, you know, a bit down, feel sorry for yourself, I suppose. But then when it comes to this time of night, you know, it really does kick in and, you know, the atmosphere gets you. And I'm not surprised that only one fish has been out today. I mean, with the group of lads that we've got on at the moment, this group's not using bait boats. And the bait boats for the last group that I was on with, there was a massive edge. You know, they can reach distances where nobody can cast. And them all open water swims, they was fishing quite long in them, 180 yards. And the lads that I've seen on this trip, you know, they're all fishing fairly short, 80 to 100 yards. And the fish that I have seen out in that open water when I have had a walk round, they're a lot longer than that. They're right out there. There's been a few fish seen in the South Bay today though, so a couple of lads have moved into there. But it did definitely seem like a bit of a lull in the action. I mean, especially for the last morning for the last group, you know, there was only one bite that morning and it was a fish lost. So, you know, it kind of indicated that it might have been dwindling off a bit, but who knows. But one thing's for sure, you know, them fish definitely know where they're safe. So I'm going to sit here now on my bucket and watch the water for the last couple of hours into darkness. But before that, I need to get my trousers on because the mozzies are out now in force and I'm getting bitten to shreds. So I need to get my trousers on and get myself lathered up in Skin Soft. I mean, that doesn't totally stop them, but it definitely helps. Sod's law that, innit? You're sat here enjoying it while it cools down when you've been baking hot all day, and then you've got to start putting your layers on just to get rid of the mosquitoes. Joys of summer fishing, eh? So yes, that is it then. I'm going to leave it there, and unless I see anything that's worth reporting or one of them rods goes off, I shall be seeing you in the morning. Wish me luck. And I'm afraid to report it's the same situation. I'm still yet to see any sort of life in this bay. It really is becoming frustrating, and if I'm honest, I think it's going to take a miracle to get a bite before we go. It's our last night tonight, but you know, we have still got to persevere. There's still some big uns out there somewhere. And not long after I spoke to you last night, there was a fish out, a very good fish at that, a 51.4, which come from the beach swim. I do believe that's the only fish to have come out from since last night and this morning. I am going for a little bit of a trundle round in a bit. I'm going to pop a couple more handfuls of bait out on the spots, and it's Father's Day today as well, so I'm going to pop to the shop and get myself a nice bit of steak, I think. Fingers crossed for you know, a Father's Day carp. That would be the best present of all, but I really can't see it. I think I'm just going through the motions for the sake of it at the moment. But as they say, you can't keep a good man down, and we shall keep on trying. We'll get back on that saddle, get some more bait out there, regroup, get refreshed, and I shall be putting the rods back out in a bit. So I'll keep you updated as always, and I'll see you in a bit. So there we have it then. The last evening is upon us. The sun is setting just behind them trees over there. I thought I'd sit from a different angle this evening just to get that sun going down behind the trees. It's 8:15 now, and to be honest, it's still not looking very promising. I am still yet to see a fish show in this bay. It is rather frustrating, but you know, the thought of one of them rods ripping off with a monster is what keeps you going. It really does. It is a magical place, this, albeit not everybody's cup of tea. You know, it's very, very frustrating. I mean, drawing for swims being one of them, and the price as well. But, you know, all that to one side, you've just got to come and experience it. There's nothing else like it. And I suppose over the last few days, it's really shown its true colours to how it normally fishes. I mean, if we go back a couple of weeks ago to the party that was here before we turned up, you know, I think most of them caught. I think only one person blanked on that trip. and it seemed to be, you know, there was all dotted about in the edges, and people were picking them off in the edges. And then we come on for the 5 nights with the party that I was with last week, and it was very much a similar sort of story. However, we didn't have quite as many fish as the previous group, but it soon became apparent that the more fish that was caught, the more fish tend to push out into that main body of water. The fish definitely reacted to the pressure. At least that's the way I'm looking at it anyway. Because these bays have just seemed completely empty, and yet when we was walking round when we first got here, it was a different story. And the group that I'm fishing with now, there's 10 of us, and still as we speak there's only been 2 fish out for this group. So it really is tough conditions. I mean, it's a tricky time of year this, you know, pre-spawning. It's always a tricky time of year anywhere. And on here especially, because you know, you've got limited fish. I think there's around about 200 fish in here, and it's about 30 acres in size. So, you know, it's not a lot of fish, that. And you have got it, you know, all the odds are stacked against you, let's put it that way, with drawing for the swims and that. It is a big gamble. So yes, I would love to come back to this place, and I'm going to see if I can get a lake exclusive booking for next year. That's what I'd really like to do, and bring my own group of friends with me. But we'll have to see about that. Anyway, back to the fishing. I brought the rods in, just gone dinner time. And before I nipped to the shop, I did go round and I just refreshed the spots. 10-15 baits, that was all. The 18 millers, the RN20, and I only baited the 2 spots this evening, or should I say today. So it was about 1 o'clock when I baited up. I baited that tree again, about 10-15 baits, and then I went round to the corner, and the same over there. And I've actually changed things slightly, because I've took the rod off the reed line, and both rods are fishing out towards the corner for this evening, and I'm still covering that tree. I just don't feel like it's worth putting any more bait out there. I don't feel like anything's visited this bay. I know that can change at the drop of a hat, and I do feel like there's already enough bait there. All I was doing was just topping up, because you never know on the, you know, other species and that, especially with what I was putting in beforehand. So I was putting a few 10 millers in and 15 millers. And the tufties have been diving as well. In both of them spots are only 5 foot of water, so some of them could be cleared off. So yes, I took a trip to the shop, and I did get myself a lovely piece of steak, which I have just devoured. It was absolutely lovely. Got a bit of salads and fried mushrooms. Oh, it was absolutely lovely. I really enjoyed that, and I have treated myself since I've been here. You know, I even brought the old chip pan with me. I've had some pretty decent food since I've been here, which I don't normally do. Normally I'm a bit lazy because I don't like the cleaning all the pots and pans. But, you know, I can just take them home and get the missus to wash them, I suppose. Don't tell her I said that, will you? She'll kill me. So, you know, it really isn't looking good, but I'm going to sit out and watch the lake and watch that sunset regardless. And we shall be having an update in the morning. Hopefully it's with a big fat smile and a fish, but I really can't see it. I really can't. It would take a miracle for some fish to get in here, I think. I think they really are just stuck out in that open water, and even then most of them are not feeding because other people would be catching otherwise. So yes, that is it from me for this evening. I'm going to watch the lake for the next couple of hours, and then I'm going to do something which I don't normally do. I'm actually going to sit and watch the new thinking tackle that's just come out today for Father's Day. I really don't normally watch anything while I'm fishing. I'm normally fixated on the lake, looking for signs, but sod it, tonight I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch that. And yes, we shall have a catch up in the morning. That is, unless the carp have other ideas. However, I'm not that confident for once. So yeah, I shall be speaking to you in the morning. good morning, and as you can see I've already started the dreaded pack down. Only an hour left to go. The rods are out there, but I am not feeling it. Nothing occurred again last night. It really has been frustrating the last 3 days in this swim, but you know, that is the gamble you take, and it's a gamble worth taking in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it could have quite have easily gone the opposite way, so I am so thankful for the fish that I have had. News around the lake as well, there was another 43 come out last night. That's all I know of. Oh, and I do know of a guy losing a fish as well, so you know, not good fishing. And I've mentioned this before, funny time of year this, so thank God we haven't blanked. That would have been absolutely horrendous. And I know I've said it before and I'll say it again, it is not for the faint-hearted, this place. You know, there is a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons to back them up as well. So you know, I hope this has given you a true insight to this lake, and anybody thinking about it, stop thinking about it, get yourself over here. I know it doesn't suit everybody, but sometimes you've just got to take that gamble. So yes, that just about wraps the session up then. I'm going to get these rods in, head off home. I'm not sure when I'm next out, to be honest, but I have promised my youngest son that I'm going to take him with me, so it needs to be somewhere that's going to cater for him as well as me. So yeah, until next time, please subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you very much for watching, and I shall be seeing you on the next one.